À-bas-le-ciel.
This is another question from Pet Flips and Chill. He wants to know, what do you think about the future of veganism, and where would you like to see it going?
Okay. This is a short answer, but it's honest. I'm actually really optimistic about the future of veganism, and that's because the other movements I was involved with in the past were really weak compared to veganism. So you know, to some extent, I was involved with Buddhism, specifically Orthodox Theravada Buddhism, scholarship of Pali, etc. That's hopeless. If you ask me what do you think about the future of Buddhism, it's a depressing answer. I think it's a really, really bad situation for Buddhism right now, and for the next 30 years or what have you, the foreseeable future. I was involved with the Green Party. I was involved with that kind of, ecologically defined political. I think that's very depressing. Next 30 years, I think it's really weak. It's only getting worse, and it's pathetic. And I think also you could look at an organization like PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, and say what future do they have in the next 30 years? I think that's also kind of depressing. They're not going to collapse, but I don't see any bright future. I don't think PETA is going to get more powerful than they already are. I just don't see it. Veganism is very easy for me to be optimistic about it, by contrast. I really think in the next 30 years we can make something tremendously positive happen. And, one of the great things about veganism is that not everyone, but it kind of puts you into a corner where you have to make things better because you feel that things can't stay the same for you in your personal life. Like, to give you an example, with a lot of other political beliefs, you can just be a middle-class parent who lives in the suburbs and put your kid through school and whatever. Let's say it's the belief in democracy. And you say, yeah, you know what? I believe in democracy, but it doesn't really change your life in any way. You don't actually try to change the world or save the world. You say, yeah, I care about democracy, and my kid goes to school and I go to work and I drive the same car and that's it. Veganism, you're always facing up to these conflicts. Whether it's your kid's school, what's your kid going to eat at school? Already, it's political. Already you're drawn into the struggle. You know what I mean? It's you in the workplace. Every facet of your life gets politicized, where you get backed into a corner where you want to make that change, even if you're someone who maybe wouldn't normally be a political activist. To me, that's also a sense in which it's really similar to gay rights. Not every gay person is going to be an activist. But if you live in a country like Saudi Arabia, if you live in a country where being homosexual is actually illegal, where gays are really being persecuted, this is something that affects you. It affects your son when your son goes to school. It affects you at the office. You're backed into a corner where you have to advocate for political change. So I do think in that sense, veganism has this tremendous dynamism that very, very few political movements have. And yeah, I am really optimistic about it. And the bottom line is not everyone's an idiot. Maybe right now on YouTube, the idiots are the loudest voices in the room. But no, I'm really very, very optimistic about the future.
Okay, thanks. That was a great answer. Hey, I was gonna say the highlight of the interview that we just did with Controvertible Snitch, talking about the Jen Journey thing, and that's where like the drama just really, you know what I mean? Maybe could have like actually killed somebody.
Yeah.
Or at the very least like caused them suffering in their last days.
Sure, totally.
I mean, that to me. That was really wow. You know what I mean?
Well,
I want to try to move away from that. I don't want to be that. You know what I mean? Somebody in here had a problem with like shingles. You know what I mean? And so we spent like a half an hour, everybody talking about this is how to like keep outbreaks down. This is what you do when you get an outbreak. Like this is the thing to boost your immune system. You know what I mean? Not just saying, oh well, you're a troll or whatever. You know what I mean? Like cancer is something even a million times more dangerous than something like shingles.
Right.
So like this kind of thing, like help each other, let's build each other, let's support each other, let's nurture each other.
Yeah.
So
I think though.
It doesn't make money.
I think
right?
though.
Maybe it doesn't make money, but it makes a lot of sense. Am I right?
Well, right, but I mean, like this is the thing. The amount of money involved is nothing compared to working at Starbucks anyway. Like if I work a regular job at Starbucks, I can make $14 an hour. My Patreon makes $10 a day. Like, let's get, the money is not an excuse. And people use it as an excuse. People, including Cheetah, say, what I'm doing is immoral, but I'm doing it for money, therefore it's okay. So that is already, deeply, deeply problematic. In terms of the Jen Journey thing, I would say so basically what we're talking about is people being mean-spirited, people being opportunists, and people being fame whores. If we're keeping, that's the problem with the Jen Journey situation. But what's interesting to me is we actually had that problem both before and after her death. So, like, if I look at someone like Durianrider jumping on the Jen Journey story before her death, to me, the problem is, one, he's being mean-spirited. Two, he's just being an opportunist. He's just trying to get views out of this. And three, he's basically being a fame whore. Like, at no point was he sincerely concerned about a scam, taking people. That's ridiculous. I mean, like, he pretends that he really was concerned about being a scam. Same with me and my lawsuit. Same with all kinds of other stuff. He pretends there's same with the thing with Julia Bohr. He pretends he was sincerely concerned that I was dating this woman I've never met, never had a conversation with or anything. Ridiculous. But he pretends there's some legitimate ethical reason for him to get involved. But in reality, one, it's mean-spirited. Two, it's opportunistic. Three, it's just fame whoring. But then after Jen has died, I think the same thing is happening, and including people like Vegan Cheetah. Like, does Vegan Cheetah actually have something positive or important or worthwhile to say about Jen Journey and Unnatural Vegan? I don't think so. And me and Unnatural Vegan are not friends, but all I see going down is more fame whoring, more opportunistic behavior. It's just more nonsense. So, like, the motivation you have for what you do matters. The way that you do it matters. So you can look at any of these controversies that are mostly just fake. If anyone is actually concerned about Vegan Mojo's sex life, if anyone is actually concerned about Jason Pizzino's sex life, I think that would create a very different video. Because, like, probably in your life, you've had friends, like people you really know in real life, where you were actually concerned there was something bad going on in their sex life, or just they were messing up their own life, like, something regrettable was happening. Like, man, you don't see the problem with this right now, but you're in love with this girl and it's ruining your life. In real life, people go through that with friends, but this stuff that's happening right now in vegan YouTube, it's mean-spirited, it's counterproductive. I think it really is damaging the movement, short-term, maybe long-term. We'll see long-term. And, like, I'm someone who's just trying to make something positive happen. And there's no way I can let this garbage dilute, the content on my channel anymore. And, like, people post comments like, oh, why don't you do another video about Durianrider, or another update on the case? Why don't you do another video about Vegan Cheetah saying something he knows isn't true and something I already dealt with 4 months ago? Why don't I do another video on some drama? It's like, I actually want to produce original, meaningful, thought-provoking content that I would find interesting, that my viewers find interesting, that people will still find it interesting 10 years from now. And I actually want to move this movement forward towards making a real difference in the world. We have some advantages over other movements historically. It's a huge advantage that I'm talking to you right now. Huge advantage over what people dealt with just 10, 20 years ago, where people would write each other letters and never meet for years. Political activists in the past, they didn't get to talk like this. They didn't have these kinds of connections. Or you'd have to spend thousands of dollars attending a conference, to fly somewhere, attend a conference just to meet someone for 20 minutes. You know what I mean? It's wonderful. What communications technology has done for this movement, present tense and future, is wonderful. And I know the difference because I was involved with activism before the internet. Or before the internet became very powerful, back when it was just email kind of thing, But it is also really sad that this has set up this negative, hostile, competitive, scandal-mongering situation. I know, because I know these people personally. I know it is impacting people's lives personally. I know it's impacting people's sex lives negatively, and I know it's impacting their political lives negatively. So somehow we got to outgrow it. Somehow we got to overcome.
I remember last night I was talking about the scandal with Eisel and his divorce. His wife. This is another thing with having my YouTube channel. Eisel's wife or somebody saying that was his wife called my phone number. You know what I mean? Like, you can't make this shit up.
Did they have an Australian accent in any way?
She had perfect English and like just the way she talked. It wasn't just some basic ass. Thai fruit cult member calling me, fucking with me.
Yeah.
I just don't think it was. But in the comment section, several times people were like, "You're literally a piece of shit," and then you start wondering, you start thinking like, am I a piece of shit? Like, I have to face myself in the mirror and actually, am I okay with being a piece of shit?
Well, hey, listen, it's getting late here on the East Coast of the United States. I'm still broadcasting. I'm not tired. I can work. You know what I'm saying? But like some of the viewers, they have some questions. So can we maybe field some questions from the viewers? They're very interested. You know what I mean?
Cool. So let's do that quick. Let's do that quick and then wrap it up because I got to go to the gym. But great, let's take some questions from the viewers and then I'll go. Cool.
What's your favorite food? Asked Marissa C.
I don't know. At this point in my life, I really have no favorite food. I really just eat to live. It's a sad answer, but that's the honest truth. I get like in general. I eat a lot of green vegetables here in China, which is good. If I have a choice, I do that. But I mean, I really don't enjoy eating anymore in my life, which is maybe a bit depressing, but that's the truth. That's the way I live, So.
Why waste your time and energy, you know what I mean, in your, your life force, your life? Why waste it trying to put Durianrider in jail? This is one of the things I wanted to say. He's not the enemy. He's not the meat and dairy industry. He's not the pharmaceutical companies. He's not the petrochemical companies. He's not the oil companies. Why spend all this time and energy trying to, put Durianrider in jail?
Reality matters. Truth matters. Future of the vegan movement matters. And I've spoken on that at great length in my videos before. Durianrider took something that's very important to me, namely the vegan movement, and he dragged its name through the mud in the name of trying to present it as something very glamorous and appealing. He hasn't made it glamorous. He's made it shameful. He's made us into a laughingstock. And he personally harmed me. He didn't just break the law in an abstract sense. It's not a victimless crime. It's a very real crime. Now, what do I want to see as an outcome of this? I do not, I've said this before. I've said this recently to Cheetah. I've said this in other videos. The point isn't just that Durianrider shouldn't defame me. I also do not want Cheetah to defame Durianrider or for, me to defame you or you to defame anyone else. The point is, that's why I called the fundraiser Vegans Against Violence and Defamation. I wanted to end the violence and defamation within the vegan movement. And Durianrider had a long proven record of making threats of violence against other people, both men and women, by the way. He has threatened women the same way, saying, a bunch of carpet up guys, here's your address. I've posted your address on the internet, and I can't be responsible for who's going to go over to play. He said this kind of thing to both men and women, made these threats of violence. So no, threats of violence are a real problem within the vegan movement. Somebody has to stand up and say this is wrong and this should stop. It turned out to be me. Turned out to be Hannah Chloe also. Hannah Chloe also deserves credit. She stood up. Somebody had to stand up and say, no, this kind of defamation, Buxing doesn't pass. It's not acceptable. Has consequences. Somebody had to stand up and do that for the future of the vegan movement. Happened to be me. Happened to be Hannah Chloe. I don't know who else has a case on Durianrider. Could be other people during the same time. So, it's a question of doing the right thing for the right reasons, and then you don't know the outcomes. I can put this case forward and, Durianrider can be found not guilty or he can be given a much lighter punishment or something. It's totally possible. Nothing will come from it. But me, for my part, I have to do the right thing for the right reasons. I have to tell the truth about this because it's a truth that matters. And it doesn't just matter to me. It matters to veganism. And that's why more than $6,500 were donated in less than 48 hours because it matters to a lot of people.
Okay. Well, I mean, we could talk about this forever. You know what I mean? But I know time is kind of limited. Cool. Anyone else in the chat have some questions for à-bas-le-ciel? This is kind of the topic that's on people's minds. So, okay, about your diet or whatever. So what did you eat today, or what do you have today? People are interested. What you know? What I mean, what does à-bas-le-ciel eat?
Sure, no problem. You can watch my What I Eat Today videos. I can tell you exactly what I ate today. Today I ate a lot of green vegetables with white rice and with a grain called Job's Tears, which you may not know. Job's Tears is your viewers may not know. Job's Tears is a very, very healthy food. Some people consider it a superfood. It's a grain that gives you about 4 grams of protein to 1 gram of fat. but it's not actually a bean. It looks like it's a white bean, but it's not. It's a big, fluffy white grain. I do recommend other vegans look into Job's Tears, very healthy food, so that my meal had more protein. So I had Job's Tears along with white rice and green vegetables. At breakfast, I ate some white Chinese buns that are just made out of rice flour. They're just made of rice flour and water, so it's not really bread in the European sense. And, today I did drink doujiang. I did drink soy milk. Some days I don't do, because having too much soy milk has been a problem for me lately. But today I also did drink soy milk. So that's about it. What I eat for dinner is not totally known to me, but probably it'll be white rice and green vegetables and something as a protein supplement, something like Job's Tears. But yeah, it is what it is. I'm not going to start selling a diet book. I cope with the options that I have when I'm in Canada, and I cope with the options here in China. So some ways the best of times, some ways the worst of times in terms of my diet.
From Evil Vegan Empire asks, do you think the meat and dairy eaters need to be thought of as addicts and cult members when formulating ways to approach them?
Okay, I'll say honestly, I mean, I've known one guy in my life who really did have addictive behaviors toward food. And he had a lot of psychological problems. He still does. And he was enormously overweight. I think he was 300 pounds or something. There are a few people who really have addictive disorders involving food, whether it's meat or not, who are compulsive eaters or what have you. But those are real, like, psychiatric problems that people get help with. Do I think it is useful to pretend that everyone or the majority of people have those problems? No, I don't. And I think it's counterproductive, like anything else. It'd be like, is it useful to pretend that everyone's an anorexic? Anorexia is a really serious disorder. Some people have it, some people don't. So no, I think if you've seen that, or you've taken interest in that, people who genuinely have compulsive eating disorders, of overeating or obsessively eating or whatever you want to say, it's very sad, frankly. And I'm sure it is much more difficult for those people to become vegan. But I would not address the question, for the population in general that way. And the vast majority of people I know who make the decision to become vegan or who make the decision to become reducitarian, because I also know a lot of people who just become meat-avoiding reducitarians, just reduce the meat in their diet, don't become vegan. I don't think those psychological issues are involved at all. So that's just my honest answer, keeping it all the way real. Oh, you can find incredibly cheap apartments, but what are your assumptions of foreigners? So I'll give you an example from Cambodia. When I lived in Cambodia, I had to pay for an expensive apartment, let's say more than $300 per month, because I needed to live in an apartment building that had a security guard, because I am a white Western foreigner. If I live in a really cheap apartment in Cambodia, my apartment will get robbed pretty regularly because I'm a white Westerner. Now, depending on who you are, that may not be a problem. For me, I didn't own anything expensive. But if my computer gets robbed, I lose all my research, I lose all my work. It's a huge problem in my life because of the data that's on the computer. I'll lose everything I'm working on the computer. So, like when I was in Cambodia, I don't have the option of really being in a cheap apartment. If you're in a cheap apartment here in China, are you comfortable being in an apartment where there's literally no shower, where your way to clean yourself is to fill up a bucket with a tap and then pour the water over yourself? Get real. So most foreigners who come here want to rent luxury apartments because they want to have a real shower. You may want to have air conditioning or heating or other things, other luxuries that normal people don't have. And if you're a cheapskate, then you have to ask yourself, do you want to spend a lot of time commuting, a lot of time riding the bus or riding the train to get between work and your apartment? So again, most foreigners don't want that either. So if you're being honest with yourself, what you really want is the most expensive apartment in the middle of the city at a luxury rate, et cetera, et cetera. So then it's not going to be that cheap, no matter which city in China you're looking at. But obviously, I like a lot of the smaller cities in China. I like the smaller cities I've been to. I haven't traveled that much in China. I've been working the whole time. But, you can live a beautiful life here. The questions I ask again and again on my YouTube channel is, can you live a meaningful life politically? Can you live a meaningful life ethically and morally? And I think you should ask yourself that question whether you're moving to South America or, Africa or China. I'm sure there are some cities in Africa where you can get much cheaper rent than here in China, and where probably if you have some money saved up, you can lead a very luxurious lifestyle. But you have to ask yourself political and ethical questions. You have to ask yourself about really leading a meaningful life. So for me, short term, this is a meaningful life, but I have my own questions about that too. I'm not planning to live in Kunming for the rest of my life. I'm just here to learn Chinese and go, right?
All right, so this is great. I mean, we have so many questions here. How many people are really interested, and they really have a lot of questions for you.
Okay.
Do you still have time, or are you?
Okay. We're coming up on 1 hour, but I mean, if I'm surprised. You guys want to hear about China? You want to hear about the type of razors I use? I don't mind. What?
There's
Okay.
so many.
Okay, if they're meaningful questions, I'm happy to do it. If we get 10 more questions about Durianrider, maybe we can skip it, because I think I already gave you a pretty long answer on that. But sure, if you got something meaningful, let's do it.
All right. Okay. Well, all right. There was one question was, what do you feel is the most effective type of activism?
Wow, great question. But so I can give a corny answer. The most effective type of activism is the activism that fits into your daily life, right? So for me in China right now, I have to look at what I can do. And for me, part of the answer was, I already mentioned, I can make a children's storybook written in both English and Chinese, because I'm learning Chinese. So I actually wrote it originally in Chinese. I translated the Chinese into English. And now I'm talking to illustrators about publishing a book. Is that the best form of activism in the world? No. But it's what I can do now as a divorced parent living in China, still in university, et cetera, et cetera. I'm in these kind of peculiar circumstances. If you are an architect, the answer is very different than if you are a movie star or if you work at Starbucks. And I mean, you yourself, Leonard, you're working in catering. And I talked earlier, I think actually you being on YouTube and Younow and you connecting with people in the film industry and in the catering industry and the food industry, I think you could actually come up with some really exciting possibilities based on the synergy between the people you're connecting in your life. But I think everyone already knows this about me. I'm always pushing people to question the assumption that protesting on the street is effective activism. It almost never is. Once in a long while, there's something really effective you can do on the streets. But in general, you have to realize that screaming at people on the street is really the kind of last desperate measure for people who have no other alternatives, no other meaningful form of activism available to them. And, emotionally, I can sympathize with people who feel that way and want to do that. But we all have to look at getting organized and making a difference. Normally starting, where you live. Normally starting with community activism, with figuring out what resources you can use in your city or in your town. And that's it. The most effective activism is going to be the activism you can actually do given your daily life, your job, your financial commitments, how much time and money you've got, what languages you speak, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, I mean, nobody seems to think about my future. I get all this kind of nonsense hate mail and stuff, because of what's going on right now. But my options will change forever if I can speak Chinese. Your options will be different forever if you speak Spanish or if you speak Hebrew. There's this huge scene for veganism in Israel, which is what it is. So, your options, but I mean, your options as an activist are going to be so different based on these obvious things, right? And so you gotta be analytical and look at your own life and don't ever take yourself out of the equation. Don't think that you're just an anonymous person. You got to really look at what you got to give. And some people don't have a lot to give. But, not everyone is a bikini model. So don't pretend you're a bikini model on YouTube. Whatever it is you've got to contribute, be honest about it. And I think there will be other people who want to get organized with you, want to cooperate with you.
This might sound like a cheeseball question, but a lot of people are very, very interested. A lot of people want to know, what kind of music do you listen to? What can you tell us a little bit about this? I know it seems like it's but people are interested.
Sure.
If you don't mind.
No, I don't mind. I think most people know. I mean, as an adult, I've really only listened to rap music now for many, many years. In the distant past, like let's say my first year of university, after I finished high school, I would still listen to both. I would listen to both rap music and classical music, specifically by Bach, Johann Sebastian Bach, but only by Bach. I really do not like classical music in general. It was just Bach. And I used to listen to some of the other genres related to rap music that aren't quite rap. There's a genre called rare groove. So stuff that's a little bit closer to your funk. I used to listen to funk music and rare groove, but then, within a pretty short time, rap music was a bigger and bigger percentage of the music I listened to. And I mean, by the end of university, all I listened to was rap music. And, it felt a lot more important in my life after I moved to Laos, after I was living in Southeast Asia. When I was living in Laos, I would really go for long periods of time without speaking English at all. Where, the Lao language was really the language I was speaking every day. So the only time I would hear English being spoken was when I was listening to rap music. Especially the only time I'd hear English being spoken well. You might go to the market and somebody says to you, you might have a simple conversation in English about how much something costs at the market when you buy something. So, it already was important to me in other ways, but it grew even more then. So now, as a fully grown man, all I listen to is rap music. And I mean, there was a brief period of time in my life when my daughter was born and when we hadn't gotten divorced yet, when I was taking care of my daughter, when I did not listen to rap music, because obviously most of it has coarse language, and where I thought, okay, now that my daughter is born, maybe for like 10 years, I'm going to stop listening to rap music, just because, you're taking care of your kid. You don't really want that kind of music playing when you take care of your kid. I thought I might have 10 years of not listening to rap music, but as you know, I ended up getting divorced instead. So rap music again became a pretty constant feature of my life. But no, it's just something most people who watch my channel know about me because I've got rap music playing on my channel. But I come from downtown Toronto, and Toronto, has its own little hip hop culture. It's it's not that surprising for anyone who comes from a big city.
And other than like Andre 3000, are there any other like vegan rappers out there?
Yeah, so back when I had the blog, I actually made a list. I was actually keeping a list going of different rappers who are vegan. I think the reality is there's a large number of rappers who support veganism, but who are not actually vegan. There is one song, really the vegan rap song, is called Animal Farm, spelled P-H-A-R-M. So, hold on, don't want to get the rapper's name wrong. Yeah, Lupe Fiasco. Yeah, that was a Lupe Fiasco track. So, Lupe Fiasco, yeah, so it's a 5-minute track or longer. You can get the lyrics online. You can hear it on YouTube, but also you can get YouTube video lyrics. But, so it's a very interesting track. If you go through the lyrics as text, it's full of very dense metaphors for ethics of animal exploitation, veganism, these issues. But is Lupe Fiasco actually vegan? I believe the answer is no. I think if you look on the internet, you'll see that he wears leather shoes and this kind of thing. Lil B is another example. Lil B has repeatedly said he supports veganism. He's actually been a part of some vegan projects, but he's not vegan. And he does still wear leather, and I believe he still eats meat once in a while, I think is vegetarian. So it's interesting, and within Wu-Tang, the majority of the members of Wu-Tang who are still alive, they have supported vegetarianism or semi-veganism. But again, they all wear leather. They've never really been vegan. And they even have lyrics, alluding to that. So there's a large number of rappers who draw attention to veganism, but very, very few who are actually committed to veganism in practice. Now, you mentioned Andre 3000. To me, he's not vegan either. And I can tell you why. If you go to his fashion line, he's had more than one line of clothes over the years. I think every fashion line he had either leather or fur or both. And I don't really even hear him repping veganism as a diet. So again, I think he falls into the same pattern where, they talk about veganism, they support veganism as an idea, but they don't really do it.
Let's see. I'd like to know about the Snowden poster and his thoughts on WikiLeaks.
Cool. Okay, so let's make that the last question, then I'll go to the gym. I gotta shave and go to the gym. Cool. Look, the Snowden poster I got for free. I picked it up basically out of the garbage at a movie theater. So it's not literally the garbage. That movie theater, they would take down their old posters and put them in a kind of pile for anyone who wanted them, but it's basically for free. And when I got the poster, I recognized Edward Snowden, but I hadn't seen the movie. It's a terrible movie. It's a really boring movie. In terms of what Snowden symbolizes or can symbolize, I think it's the same thing you guys can see on my channel. I have a 15-minute video up of me talking to Vegan Cheetah. And the title of the video is something like, a matter of principle. It's like, look, this is about the principle of the thing. And, Edward Snowden, I'm sure he's done bad things in his life also, but he really decided to sacrifice his life for a matter of principle. He felt that, this question of the government spying on people was a matter of principle that was so important that he was willing to sacrifice his life for it and go to jail for the rest of his life. Instead of being in jail now, he's in an apartment in Russia or whatever. So, it's very rare in the history of the Western world that you have anyone who does that or anything like that, who stands up on point of principle and says, this matters more than my life or this matters more than my comfort. Beyond that, do I have a whole lot of respect for the guy? Not really, but it's just interesting. It's an interesting footnote in history, and that's what he'll be remembered for. When you look into some of the fine print of what he did and how he did it, he's not a perfect human being. Nobody is, et cetera, et cetera. Will WikiLeaks change the world? I don't know. I doubt it. But, people have had their heads in the sand about that. When I was in Canada, there was a woman who was apparently murdered. She disappeared and was presumed to have been murdered. And I remember the government played this clip on the news. And it was a clip of her voice, her last known location, last known recorded voice, which was her using someone else's cellular phone. So she was hitchhiking. So a random stranger gave her a ride, and she used the stranger's phone to make a phone call, like to tell her friend that she would get there soon or something, right? Now, I remember talking to people, and at that time, the WikiLeaks scandal was fresh in people's minds. I said to them, you must realize the government of Canada is recording every single phone call from every single person and has all of them in a searchable database. Because there is no other way they could have this clip. It's not from her phone. It's from a random stranger's phone. And people are just asleep about it. People are just sleepwalking. And for me, there are other ethical questions raised by it. For me, what I wonder is, okay, in this case, it's a good thing. They're doing a murder investigation. It's a good thing that the government has access to that data. But what if I want access to it? What if I have a moral reason why I have to go to court? The government has this power to play a recording of anyone's voice from any telephone conversation, and I don't. And you don't. Who has the power to render a request saying, look, this is something important. It may not be murder, but it may be a murder case. I don't know, who shot Tupac? Any murder case you want. I want to go through the government's database of these phone recordings so I can try to find evidence that relates to my case or my problem. Who makes that decision? Currently, there is absolutely no, due process for that. There's no democratic answer to that question because those questions were never asked back when the constitutions were written for countries like the United States and Canada. So there are a lot of really interesting, deep, long-term questions about that. But if we're living in a future with no secrecy, me personally, I'm comfortable with that. I really don't mind if my recorded phone conversations are available to the government of China or to the government of Canada. I do not mind that. There are other people who definitely do mind that. I understand that perspective. But we also need to mature as a civilization. And among the other things we need to do is mature past exactly the kind of scandal mongering that somebody like Vegan Cheetah is engaging in, right? I don't know. Do you have a phone snippet of me you're going to take out of context about my sex life or something? Like, everybody's got an ex-girlfriend. Everybody's got a love life. Everyone's got a private life. We have to develop new codes of conduct, new attitudes, new expectations for journalists, for the government, for ourselves as individuals, for how we're going to live with the availability of information that formerly was not available. And I think I'm talking about it all the time now. Because even when I say, look, if somebody's making up a story based on some snippet of information or something, you have to weigh that in the balance with my actual written articles, with my peer-reviewed publication, with the information that's on my YouTube channel. A human being has to be worth more than a soundbite. A human being has to be worth more than a slanderous remark or a quotation a quotation taken from a Twitter feed or two sentences in an internet forum. There has to be some level of sympathy and responsibility for what you're doing to another human being's life when you attack them this way. And to me, I know it sounds corny, but to me that actually links Edward Snowden back to the Vegan Cheetah, the questions we have going on in the vegan digital demimod right now. Okay, look, it's been great talking to you.
I was going to ask you,
okay,
before you go, if you wanted to address your critics,
No.
there's some kind of trollist type, right? There's some trollist type questions. I mean, I know you're giving us a lot of time, and I do appreciate that. But if you wanted, if you want to, if not,
Sure. Look,
do it another time.
I'll say no. It's cool. It's quick, but then I'll go. But look, what I've said in my channel before, I'll say again now. I can't spend my time talking to the stupidest 10% of my viewers, because then my whole channel will just become stupid. That'll be the kind of thing you deal with again and again. So I mean, for you also, for you on Younow and for you on YouTube in your future, you have to ask yourself those questions. I don't know. Maybe if you're pursuing a mass audience, then you do answer whatever the majority of your viewers ask, or even what the stupidest people ask, maybe the most entertaining or the most outrageous questions. But for me, I mean, I actually have a list of topics here, on paper, that I've wanted to make a video about, and that I haven't had time to make a video about yet. None of them are replies to my critics. They're different philosophical and political questions that I really think are a meaningful contribution. But, so you asked me before, how much time do I want to waste dealing with the legal case with Durianrider, and I agree with you. I don't want to spend a lot of time with that. There are other things I would prefer to do with my time. There are other things that are more important for me. But then if you ask the question, how much of my time do I want to spend answering my critics, the answer is 0. Especially given the level of stupidity and malice of my critics. And again, I mean, that's one of the reasons to be disappointed with someone like Unnatural Vegan. I encouraged her. I said, look, you want to criticize me? Great, go ahead. But, really deal with the issue. Really deal with the substance of the issue, whether that's castration of dogs, or the fact that I'm a lousy scholar of Buddhism, or that I secretly work for the CIA. Whatever your criticism is of me, if it's actually intelligent and, well-intentioned, it's not just malice, it's not just, okay, great, maybe that's really interesting. But, no, that's not what I get on YouTube. Or elsewhere on the internet. No, I mean, there's just complete nonsense out there. And then there's my struggle and the struggle of a number of other YouTubers to really provide something meaningful and stimulating that advances the movement, yes, but also just provides quality entertainment to human beings who are washing the dishes and who are walking on the treadmill at the gym all around the world. Because that's the reality of this podcast, what we're recording right now. People are going to listen to it while they're washing the dishes. People are going to listen to it while they're on the treadmill. And they do not want to hear the same thing they've already heard 10 times, 20 times, and whether that's me answering my critics or otherwise, if you don't have anything meaningful to say, don't come on YouTube. But I do. All the time, every day, there are more things I want to say that are really fresh and original and that I haven't said before. But no, it's not answering my critics. All right, great talking to you, Leonard. And I hope I talk to you again. I'm going to put this up on my channel to promote you, so all the really cynical, overeducated vegans are going to come around and check out your Younow broadcast, man. Okay?
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate it too, man. I appreciate talking to you.
À-bas-le-ciel.